You're welcome back. We promised that we'll bring you a conversation with LBC Free Ankara, and we always deliver. Here he is. Of course, Mr. Ifriye Ankara is no stranger to JoyNews. It's good to see you once more.
Good to see you too, my brother.
It has been a while.
Yes, it has been.
Yeah.
It has been.
Yeah, you were quite recently made Director of Elections for your party. And there's been quite a lot of activity in the run-up to next year's elections. But we haven't quite seen you, take the center stage and do the interviews.
My work is more technical, behind the scenes. We speak only when there's a need to speak. So I'd rather concentrate on doing my work on the quiet, organizing, training, capacity building for our people. We need to deploy over about 30,000 agents during the elections. And we also handle the internal elections of our party. So there's a lot that needs to be done. But once in a while, when issues come up and it calls for clarification, then you come and speak. But otherwise, I'm enjoying working behind the scenes.
Now, but that wasn't always the story. You were very much front and center when your party was in power, as Minister for Youth and Sports. You were in the big seat when the entire Brazil thing went down, and we all remember how that unfolded. But today there's yet another reason for the Black Stars to be on everybody's mind and lips and so forth, and it's this captaincy business. I just want to capture your thoughts on that before we get into other issues this morning. So now we have a general captain, a captain and a deputy captain, and we've got the president making phone calls and, all manner of intrigue.
Well, they say there's also a coach, which is Kwesi Appiah, and a general coach, which is the president.
I knew you couldn't resist that.
A general coach. But, it's almost like a deja vu, Every government, every president, sincerely, knowing how Ghanaians love football, would always want to see the national team doing well. And in our time, you recall after the team qualified, 3 players who were not part of the qualification were invited to join the team. There was a lot of pressure from the public, and of course the coach also accepted it, and then they joined the team. Now, it was a very sincere gesture, and that was just inviting players to join the team. It had nothing to do with captaincy or all that. But if you cast your mind back to what happened in Brazil, all the altercations and all the things that went on revolved around those three players. So the president could be sincere, but he could be sincerely wrong. And these things have to be handled very carefully. I keep telling people that Brazil did not begin in Brazil. It began here, in Ghana. First of all, those players, they came in with a sense of entitlement. And they were the ones who stirred all the dissension in the camp, to the extent that one of them even used an F word on the coach. And one also beat up an FA executive.
Well,
and so that
slapped or beat up?
Okay, slapped. But slapped and beating was a different.
I guess the difference is in degrees, right?
Okay, so maybe multiple slaps equals beating. Okay. So
it's bad enough. It's bad enough. Whatever you call it.
So that, for me, is my worry, that you have a situation where the coach takes a decision and then the president has to intervene. So you wonder what kind of atmosphere or spirit you're going to have in the camp. And we all just pray and hope that some way, somehow, they will be able to manage their egos, because it's all about egos, and look at the national interest. Because oftentimes I think that there's a bit of a swollen-headedness and being pampered too much by the nation. And sometimes they don't look beyond themselves and their egos. They have to look at the national interest. Because in Brazil, what really happened? They asked for $100,000 as a one-time appearance fee. That was a time when the government was in a serious financial crunch, when the Bank of Ghana had introduced all these measures to curb foreign exchange, outflow. And so government said, you need to sacrifice. We're going to give you 75,000. That is the money you took in the previous World Cup. And they said, no, we want 100,000. And so the FA came in and said, we'll top it up and make it 82,500. So we sent a team to them in Bosnia. They went to negotiate with them, talk to them. They still insisted 100,000. I thought between 82,500 and 100,000 is no big deal. So look at what is ahead. Getting the opportunity to play at the World Cup is a huge exposure for you, for your own career. We thought that we had been able to convince them. You won't believe that even before the first match, and that's what many people do not know, before the very first match against the US, they threatened to boycott the match. So the late Vice President, Mr. Atta, may his soul rest in perfect peace, had to come to the training ground and assure them that they were going to get their 100,000. Now, this was the 75,000, and then subsequent 82.5 was a cabinet decision.
Right.
But the Vice President, then the late Vice President, seeing the aggression and the posture they are taking, had to countermand a cabinet decision and say, we're going to get you the money. Wow. Then the second phase of the drama started. They said, well, since you said you give us 75,000 and then now 82,500, we don't want you to pay the money through our accounts, because there was an arrangement with Unibank and they were all giving cards. They said, no, we want to see cash. Because if you pay the money through our accounts, you probably pay us the 75,000 or 82,500. And once that money comes, it will be difficult for us to ask for the rest. So we want 100,000 cash. That is the whole matter about the cash.
Which of the players was pushing this?
Oh, the captain will tell you that the players are putting pressure on him. I had a very good relationship with him. I spoke to him countless times. He said, look, I can't sleep. They are just putting pressure. And evidently, I think that those three were at the center of all these agitations. And I kept telling them, you see, but you should know that the money will definitely come anyway, even if it is after, in the unlikely event that even after the tournament, you get your money, because we always pay you. But we are making arrangements to get you the money. So go and train. So before the German match, the president spoke to them and assured them that they'll get the money. Then after before the Portugal match, they said, no money, no playing. Then he moved to no money, no training. So I said, but you are professional players. You know that you need a certain amount of playing time practice so that your muscle memory, everything, psych yourself properly so that you can deliver. Now, if you do not train, eventually you get the money, but we will pay you the money and you would have cheated us because you won't be able to perform to your maximum output. They said, no. Those were the words of the captain. They said, look, the money, I mean, we can't think. We just want to get the money. Then we'll be able to concentrate. Don't worry, we are professionals. Once we get the money, we'll be able to deliver. So if you were in my shoes, you have two options. Tell them to go to hell. Which probably I should have done, but I would have been, today it's easy to say that. Can you imagine what would have happened? I would have been lynched when I got to Ghana, or find a way of getting them the money. So I spoke to national security and other stakeholders. It's okay, let's get them the money. So it wasn't as if we were smuggling money. No. People thought we were smuggling. No. The Brazilian officials were aware. We said, look, we have a crisis. We are bringing money in. So when the money came, and we didn't charter an aircraft, that's also another falsehood. It was one of the state aircrafts managed by the Ghana Air Force that brought the money. And so the Brazilian National Security were there, the tax authorities were there, everybody, they were there, they checked everything, and they gave us escort. How can you be smuggling money and it to be escorted? Because they realized it was a crisis. But somebody in Ghana then announced to the media that the money is
member of your party, Joseph Ayew.
And so that's what brought about the whole controversy. So, some of these things, we just hope and pray that somehow when they get back to camp, the focus will be on team and play, because that team in my view, could have gone probably to the semifinals because they played 2-2 with Germany, and FIFA technical committee determined that that was the best match of the entire tournament.
Yeah.
So they had potential. So how come that I was seeing a team that had potential to get to probably semifinals, and the players themselves were looking at 100,000 and kissing it? Meanwhile, if they had gone that far, the benefits would be in millions.
Yeah.
So I think for now, we must all help them to focus on what is ahead and not on all this external.
So I mean, let me ask you, the original decision by the coach to replace Asamoah Gyan as captain, I mean, you follow football. What do you reckon? Good decision?
That's his decision. He's a coach. He takes them to training. He watches them. He knows the team spirit. He knows everybody's attitude. He knows what he wants. So you want to change your captain, you do so. As to whether he should have called him, you know, we don't have all the facts. We're getting snippets of information that he had to speak to him. Perhaps I think he was trying to manage the situation and it backfired. I think that going forward, you want to change the captain, and that's it, you know. So this whole business of going to speak to him behind the scenes, and then there's been a long undercurrent, you know, but it's always been managed. It's always been managed, you know.
Tell me about that undercurrent real quick, because it's of interest. I mean, you have some, you know.
It's silent, so there's nothing to tell.
but it's between.
You hear of it, you sense it, you perceive it, but they sit together, they eat and drink together, normal. Do you understand me? You don't.
And we're talking about Dede Ayew and Asamoah Gyan.
Yes. Yes. And it is believed that the two have factions. But you see them always together, laughing, praying together, you know. But you hear, you know, you hear that that is one is
you
there.
never actually saw evidence of it.
Oh no, you wouldn't see them, to be fair. You won't see them maybe arguing or no.
And do you think there was something political behind it? I mean, did they owe allegiance to different political camps?
You know, when you are speaking in public, you must ensure that whatever you say has a basis. Yeah. I don't want to get into all those speculations because people had all kinds of speculations. FA people, you know, they didn't want us to, some FA people didn't want us to do well because it will inure to the benefit of the NDC, all kinds of, but these are all speculations. You know, I just want to deal with the facts that I know.
Fair enough.
Yes.
So I mean, we want to spend more time on some of the other issues, but the very last thing on the football thing, do you think perhaps we ought to do what Brazil does and like have a policy on how we determine who the captain is? Or maybe do what Cameroon does, where the Prime Minister physically hands over the captain's band to a player before a tournament or before you know, any sort of engagement. Do you think perhaps we should start looking that way?
I think issues of captaincy should be left to
the coach.
The coach must be given that authority. He must feel that he has the whole state behind him and he has the authority and right to do whatever he wants to do. That is in the interest of the team. Yeah. For example, when the gentleman used the F word, for me, I thought that was a missed opportunity. And I know Kwesi has learned his lessons and he's going to be very firm. Yeah. It's not that he wasn't firm, but I think that he felt, well, you know, the tournament is about to begin. I don't want to cause too much stir in the team, so let me just caution him. And but that was an opportunity to sack the guy. If you had sacked that guy out of the team, all the other things wouldn't have happened because it would have sent a clear signal that we're not going to tolerate this kind of nonsense.
Indeed, indeed. Well, lessons learned, I hope. Let's talk about election 2020. That's what's been occupying your mind most recently. Did you really say that the EC is engaging in voter suppression?
Yes, yes.
That's a serious accusation.
Yes. And I'll prove it.
Show us.
Okay. So there are 3 types of registrations. We have the mass registration, where when you're doing a new register, you open up and then you register people at the various polling stations. That was done in 2012, the biometric registration. Yeah. And then you have a limited registration. Every 2 years, you look at the population figures and then you do a projection. And then we have a continuous registration, which came about as a result of the Tenadi case, where a citizen wanted to register off the 2 other registration periods, and the court ruled in his favor. The Electoral Commission said, we are not doing registration. And the court said, every citizen must be given the opportunity. So that is where they acquired the VMS equipment and placed them at their district offices. So that is meant for continuous registration.
Right.
Now, we've done 2 limited registrations. 2014, 3 actually. 2014, the target was 1 million. The EC was able to achieve about 800,000. 2016, the target was 1.2 million. The EC was able to achieve about 1 million. So they're talking about 80%, 90%. And then in 2018, there should have been a limited registration exercise across the country. But the EC decided to limit it to the 47 districts that were going to hold a referendum. When they did that, they used the VMS, the district-based equipment, and they targeted 100,000 people in this 47 districts. Now, we felt that based on our statistical analysis, it should have been, the target should have been over 200,000, but their target was 100,000. When they did that, they got 47,000 plus, so 47%. So you have a situation where whenever you use the 6,000 electoral areas, you get 80, 90% turnout. When you use the district offices, you get less than 50% turnout.
Okay.
So we're now coming to do a limited registration across the country. That is after 2016. So as I said, 2014 target 1 million, 2016 target 1.2, got 80%, 90%. So the main 2019, after 3 years, we asked the EC, what is your target? On paper, what they wrote to Parliament was 300,000. At the last IPAC meeting, we asked them, what is your target? They said 500,000.
Okay.
We asked, what is the basis of that 500,000? Because population growth does not regress. It goes forward. So if you had 2014 target of 1 million, 2016 target of 1.2 million, 2019, your target should be 1.5 million or above. They couldn't explain to us at IPAC. So we went to the population service, statistical service. They gave us the figures. Based on their projections, those who have turned 18 between 2016 and 2019, they're about over 1.7 million people. So if you have an EC whose primary mandate is to register people to vote, and mind you, this vote is a fundamental human right. It's inalienable. You cannot do anything about it because you need to be able to register before you can vote. And the EC's mandate is to put in place measures to expand the voters register. So if you have a situation where the EC, by its own actions, says that it's targeting 500,000 people, then it means that you're going to disenfranchise 1.2 million potential registrants. That is a very serious matter. It's not a matter that we should talk with. It's not about NDC or MPP. You're talking about the fundamental human rights of citizens of this country. And so the EC has not been able to prove to us. Now, you're reducing the number of polling places, locations, from 6,500 to less than 250. That's a reduction from 100% to less than 5%. How can anybody convince me that when you reduce the number of points where people can register, you will be able to achieve, and there's a fulfilling, acceptance that even the target they've given makes you know that they realize that the system they are going to use has its own limitations. And so we've been saying it, that this will not work. You tried it in 2018. These were the results. It's not rocket science. If you use the same method, you're going to get the same or worse results. And this time it's going to be worse, because what is going to happen is that you're going to ask more people to cluster at one location. The entire district will have one place where everybody will come and vote. It has serious implications. Beyond that, people have to travel far distances. We've given the example of Bole Bamboy, but let me just give you another example from Seche Afram Plains. And you'll be amazed at what people have to go through, especially in this rainy season when people, there are rivers that are flooded and all that. So there's going to be a lot of inconvenience for people. And the same constitution and the laws that they keep talking about that they are empowered by law, I have here the CI 91, which is the enabling law that allows the Electoral Commission to discharge its functions. And this CI 91 came from the practices that we've been doing, registration at electoral area levels, and then those were then codified into law. And it states clearly that in designating a place as a registration center, the Commission shall take into consideration A, the suitability of the place for use as a polling station on election day, and B, the accessibility of the place to prospective applicants for registration.
Okay, so it mentions registration. I was going to say, is this about polling stations or
for registration?
Okay.
So it's very clear. So the registration is based on two major principles: suitability and accessibility. Now you have a situation where people have to travel for miles. And I have here a petition for the extension of upcoming limited registration exercise to the electoral area level in the Setre Afram Plains district.
Right.
And he says, he writes as a concerned citizen, states his polling station number. And he says, Setre Afram Plains as a constituency has a peculiar and very strange geographical situation in terms of movement in the constituency. The constituency shares boundaries with Atebubu Mountain to the north, Afram Plains south to the west, Asante Akim north to the southwest, and Setre Kumewu to the east. Madam, new or potential registrants for Anyinofi alone must, under this current arrangements, have to travel about 200 kilometers just to get to Drobonso, the district capital. That is from Anyinofi to Atebubu, then to Ejura, then take another car to Mampon, then another car to Kumewu, then another car from Kumewu to Drobonso, by which time I believe your staff might have closed from the office. My brothers from Fumsua will also have to pick a motorbike to Mosipeni and and pray to get a car to Agogo. And then move from there to Kumewu, then Kumewu to Drobonso, which is another 154 kilometers. So one group travels for 200 kilometers, another 154 kilometers. And then he goes on and cites many more.
This is all one district.
One district.
That's
and there are so
district.
many of this. You look at Bole Bamboy. Bamboy to Bole, over 100 kilometers. So many districts. So there are practical issues and challenges.
So I want to read to you what the EC chair said by way of explanation.
Okay.
Because it reflects some of what you've said, that they themselves recognize a specific challenge and are trying to work around it. So this is what she says, and I quote, "This is not so much of a problem. When we met last month at our IPAC meeting, we made it clear that the EC was working to review its IT infrastructure. So, in order to maximize our resources, we agreed to do an online registration. We're not saying that people should not go and register. We even made it clear that if the EC can go the extra mile for people who are living very far, and it becomes necessary that the EC must create a certain enabling environment so that they can go to their headquarters of the Electoral Commission in that district to go and register, we are ready to do that. There are agencies we can team up with. We made all these things known to them that the Commission can never disenfranchise anyone. We did acknowledge that in some district headquarters it will take about 40 miles to get there. These are things the Commission can easily work with the parties, civil society organizations, to be able to ensure that all these people are able to register." So, I mean, what I'm seeing here, and I'm happy to hear your response, what I'm seeing here is that she acknowledges that even 40 miles would be too far. And there is no desire, according to her, to disenfranchise anyone. And so wherever there is a need for special arrangements, the EC is willing to do so that nobody feels unable to register because of how far away they are from the district. But the central problem of the IT upgrade exists. It's not something they can pretend is not there. So this is the best way they can get this exercise done with the limitation before them. How do you respond?
Okay, so first of all, she said some special arrangements. And so we are the political parties. Again, the enabling regulation, and I can say clearly that the EC is in breach of its own laws, and somebody should take them to court. I'm reading the regulation 3. It says the commission shall at least 21 days before the first day of the national registration of voters inform political parties and the general public by publication in the Gazette of a place it designates as a registration center. You see, it's in black and white. Let me read again. The commission shall at least 21 days before the first day of the national registration exercise inform political parties and the general public by publication in the Gazette of a place it designates as a registration center.
So that's a national registration, does not limited registration?
Registration is registration.
Okay.
So we asked at the last APAC meeting that from that day to the 7th will be 21 days. So we needed to have that information because it's initially, in fact, it was just done when I saw the import of this. Right. Initially, I thought it should be after 21 days, but it says 21 days before. So we should have gotten this information last 2 weeks when we went for IPAC meeting. She did not provide. And then she goes on to say they will make special arrangements. And she talked about selected areas. Selection by who? Who does the selection? What is the basis of the selection? What is the criteria or criterion for selection? Do you know, Mr. Kojo?
Well, I see 40 miles as a point beyond which he thinks it will be too far to travel.
So is it not right, first of all, legally, we have a right. She's not doing us a favor. We have a right to know. By now, we should have known. And we asked her, have you done the Gazette? She said, yeah, the Gazette has been done. But I can say that she probably was not telling us the truth. You know why? Because after that IPAC meeting, we started getting information from our district and regional officers, calling them for regional IPAC meetings and district IPAC meetings. It is at those meetings that she was then trying to, the district officers and regional officers were trying to negotiate and find out where the difficult areas are. So even by, she has infringed the law, because the Gazette must include all the places that you're going to deploy your equipment. So if you say you did the Gazette 21 days, it will mature on the 7th. And as at last week, you were still trying to find out where. It means that you lied to us. You didn't tell us the truth.
Mr. Friankra, do you feel that these are fatal flaws that cannot be remedied so that this exercise can be carried out for the benefit of all voters? Because there appears to be a certain I don't know, sort of a feudal sort of relationship.
Let me ask you, and you should ask them. I keep telling my friends in the media that don't just listen to what we're saying. Do your own independent research, and then ask the relevant questions. EC says they target 500,000 votes. So what is going to happen to the 1.2 million given to us by the Statistical Service? These statistics is not voodoo. You can't create it. It's there. These are facts. So if you have 1.7 plus million people who have qualified to vote, and you put in place measures, because if your target is 500, it means that you buy 500,000 worth of papers, you buy 500,000 worth of ink, you buy 500,000 worth of everything that you need. So what is going to happen to the 1.2 million people? Now, you don't have the rights, and I'm going to come to the monetary issues, to determine that you, as Electoral Commission, you will determine whether people should register or not. Because you see, she has not said it directly, but the implication of all that she's saying and doing is that the district assembly elections is not that important. That is the implication, you know, and that we can do it anyhow, but next year, we want to do a biometric register, change our data system and everything. So let's just manage this. She hasn't got the right to do that. Constitutionally, she's bound. The Constitution says that the EC must put in place measures to expand the voters register. What she's doing is to suppress the voters register. So she's in breach of the Constitution. People should be going to court by now. And I hear there's one case in court. Many more should follow. It's a breach of the fundamental human rights of people. Now, let's come to the issue of budgets. So this is the report of the Special Budget Committee on the 2019 budget estimates of the Electoral Commission. See, paper, no lie. It's here. Okay? Now, the EC previously, 2018, they went to Parliament and they asked for 373,445,112 Ghana cedis. They were given the money. What were they given the money for? They stated clearly that they wanted to upgrade and maintain the voter management system across the country, and then service and maintain the biometric voters registration, BVR equipment, biometric verification devices, and the data center of the commission. This is the commission's own thing that they wrote to Parliament. Now, they did not spend the money. As to why they did not spend it, that's another matter that will be dealt with another day. So that is for whatever reason. So in 2019, they wrote further and asked that because they did not spend the money, that money should be ring-fenced and then added to whatever they were going to ask for. So in 2019, they asked for 767,472,671. So over 767 million Ghana cedis. And this is where it gets interesting. What their own, this is their document, they wrote it. Now let me just start from here. Okay. As of October 2018, the commission had only committed a sum of 51 million, representing 24.32% of the allocation, leaving a balance of 160 million of the appropriated budget uncommitted. That is the 2018. Officials from the EC informed the committee that the commission required the amount to upgrade its data center. You talk about data center. Acquire 5,000 new BVR kits, in addition to, and this is very important, to 7,500 kits refurbished in 2016 and 5,000 new BVDs for the impending district level elections scheduled for September next year and the referendum in 2019. You know that we should have done the assembly elections in 2019. They just pushed it to December. So she was asking for money for the district assembly elections, for the registration and the referendum in 2019. It's here, it's in black and white. Then you come to point number 9.2. It says that the committee noted that the Electoral Commission requires an amount of 979 million, almost a billion, to undertake critical election-related activities for the conduct of referendum to seek the approval of Ghanaians to elect MMDCs and Ds in 2019.
Right.
The commission informed the committee that the amount will be used to procure new BVR and BVR kits, refurbish existing kits, upgrade the commission's data center, and undertake voter registration and prepare it for the future. The commission will also apply part of the funds to upgrade its data center, which exhausted its capacity. The commission explained that blah, 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 blah. And it says, without all this, the commission cannot effectively conduct the local level elections and the referendum in 2019.
So you're seeing some duplication there.
So they have been given more than enough budgetary allocation. Now, they said they wanted to upgrade the BVR and BVD. The BVR and BVD equipments are those mobile equipments that are used. She herself described them as portmanteaus. They look like portmanteaus.
Yeah, she wants to replace them with tablets.
With tablets. But you don't do that at the expense of the rights of voters. In any case, you yourself stated that you wanted to do this exercise in 6,000 registration centers. It's clear. So you've been given money, adequate, more than enough money to undertake this exercise. At what point then did you realize that these BVR kits are not good and then you were no longer?
We're going to hold that point there because our time tells us we have to go on to other issues. So we'll wrap this EC aspect by hearing from her as well, just to be fair. So this is what the EC chair, Jean Mensah, has been saying about the objections and the questions raised by the NDC.
This is where we really need you to go with us along the way, because we are really ready. We are here to ensure that it is the will of the people that stands. We are not here to plunge this nation into war. And anybody, I mean, that's the only way. You cannot rig the election for anybody. The EC cannot. Even at the polling stations, you have your officials there. Parties must make sure that these are credible agents that they have who can be trusted, and they should be able to be trained to, take records of the results and so on. But the EC cannot, unless the EC wants to plunge this nation glaringly into war. It cannot happen. Right from the start to the finishing line, the processes are watertight, they are transparent, and we're looking to work with our partners, the media, the political parties, to identify, along the line, if there are some loopholes, these things should be unearthed so that together with the parties and civil society, the media and so on, we can plug those holes and tighten the screws. Our political parties to the best of our ability. And I started by saying that, what we've tried to do is to come up with an agenda that collectively we would work on. So, when it comes to issues of ROPA, there are key, representatives of the parties on that committee. When it comes to some of the reforms as well, you have key representatives of, the political parties on that committee. So to really engage in an open, and transparent manner, but also to engage with the public. I think the citizenry, various stakeholders in our society, engage with them, build confidence, build that trust, but also strengthen our own systems to make them very transparent. And therefore, it would be very difficult for anybody to accuse, the empire of, not being neutral. I don't see the issue of neutrality. There's absolutely nothing you can do. There's absolutely nothing you can do. Even if my father was the president and I'm put in this place, because of the systems that we have built and what we seek to do, there's absolutely nothing we can do. And it's one of the areas that, I'd like to discuss, to really take off the shrouds of secrecy and to expose Ghanaians to the system that we have, right from registration all the way to election day. Any stakeholder can monitor and police it. So you come to registration, parties have to be notified 21 days in advance. The agents out there are electoral officers. They are temporary staff who the head office has no connection to. It's district officers who appoint them. And once you do, you have to even present their photographs and their details to the political parties. And if they have issues with any officer, they raise these issues. If they are legitimate, you take them out of the role.
Yeah, I think that's where we'll leave the Electoral Commission debate. At this point, we need to look further into the details that have been shared so that we can bring the facts to the public. But, we appreciate you raising those issues from the report.
Can I make a little point on the EC? Because people are saying that we are unduly arranging them, and I think it's important that I use this opportunity to explain. We went into the first IPAC meeting under Madame Jane Mensah. We're given 45 minutes notice. It's not fair. We protested initially. They said no, but all the other parties got their notice on time. Very suspicious, but they apologized and we moved on. Then we went for a meeting, a second meeting. That was my first meeting officially. And there were 3 items on the agenda: the budgets of the Electoral Commission, the political parties, their audits, inspection of their offices, and the district level elections. We had very fruitful deliberations, only for us to come out in the evening. And there was a statement that after extensive deliberations, all the parties agreed to the 3 things that were said. And then they put in that we agreed that we should have a new voters register. We did not discuss that. It was not on the agenda. The issue of a new voters register is a major issue that has to be brought to IPAC. Beyond IPAC, it has to even go to stakeholder consultations and all that. We didn't do all that. So you ask yourself, what is the motive behind slotting that in when it was not exhaustively discussed?
That did get resolved, didn't it? I mean, eventually, this whole thing about a new register.
No, because if you listen to the, it looks like she's trying to use a backdoor way to introduce the new voters register without bringing it to IPAC or going through the process that it has to go through.
Okay. It's, again, another point for further discussion. But I want to touch on a couple of important things before our time runs out. And first is the talks that are going on regarding the vigilantism, and the Peace Council is leading them. You've sat in a few of those, no?
No.
Okay, but
the General Secretary, the Chairman, and then the Director of Internal. We have a team that handles that, so I've not been part of the deliberations.
But these talks have been happening while Parliament is considering a bill, you know, to disband and deal with the same problem. Do you see some duplication here? Do you see a point to these talks with the Peace Council?
Oh, definitely. I mean, in the same way as we have IPAC, it is not a constitutional body, but because of, you know, in law, conventions over time become law. And the Peace Council and its institutions has played a very critical role in ensuring that we have a stable, peaceful environment. So, irrespective of what is going on with the law, I think that those engagements are very, very critical and very important. But for me, what worries me is that to date, we have not seen the report of the Emil Short Commission. We all saw what happened where, I mean, state-sponsored gangsters using state machinery and equipment went and brutalized people. A member of parliament was brutalized in public. Until date, we have not seen any report that people who did those things, they've not been sanctioned, they are walking around, you know, free. It's totally unacceptable. We need to know, where is the report? We need to know what is going on, because people cannot behave that way and then they will get away with it. Then you are creating the opportunity for same things to be done in 2020. Remember, on one of the recordings, one of the gentlemen said, this is just he used a certain word, not precursor, because he couldn't have used precursor. This is just beginning of 2020 or something to that effect. Now, if people do these things, and these people were in state vehicles, and to date, nobody has been sanctioned, nobody has been punished, and they are walking around throwing their weight about, then I'm sorry.
But don't you see a trend here with the work of commissions? Because you had to appear before the commission into the Brazil thing. Well, you famously wept. You know, I've never had the chance to ask you why that happened. Maybe, yeah. But you know, you went through all of that process, and at the end of it, they white papered the whole thing.
Nope.
And today, here we are.
No, that's not true. Okay, so first of all, I didn't weep. What happened was that, in fact, for me, the commission was a blessing in disguise, because when we came back, or even before we came, there were all kinds of stories. That was when I realized that Ghana has a very thriving manufacturing center. And people can just manufacture stories. I slept with an actress and gave her 20,000. I flew money to Miami in a private jet. I mean, crazy stuff. So the commission was an opportunity for me to say my side of the story. So that day, it was normal. We were talking about what happened before the money came.
Yeah.
And the commissioner asked me, so when the players said they were not going to train, how did you feel? It was a simple question. Simple question. How did you feel? Then momentarily, my mind went back to when I was begging them, go and train. Just train. The money will come. Once you train, you will play the match and will win. Because I knew once we beat Portugal, the sky was the limit. And they didn't train. So that was the question. So for that moment, my mind went back to all those things and I lost it. It's like, wow, man. How did you feel? I felt horrible. So that was it. It had nothing to do with money. People said they asked him about money. And, you know, that commission is my salvation. You know why? Because Ernst & Young did a forensic audit.
Yeah.
They did a thorough forensic audit. They were asking for receipts of water. Water we bought for people at the airport. They were asking for receipts.
Yeah.
We provided everything. The report is there. The report is there. You can go and check. There's not one place that Free Ankara, was indicted for anything. Of course, things did not go well in terms of arrangements and everything, but as a person that I took state money or embezzled, no way, not in 1,000 years. It will never happen. And they can investigate, bring FBI, CIA, KGB, 1,000 years, they won't find nothing, because there's nothing to be found. And we didn't do this to take money. This was the first World Cup that the state did not give us money for organization. The state did not give us money for supporters. The first time ever. And we raised funds from corporate Ghana. And all those funds were kept in an account that I was not even a signatory to. And those funds were also audited. And then the Black Stars money was also audited. The balance of the money, $4.444 million, we return it to chest. The records are there.
But my question is that, do you not find that commissions sometimes end in futility? And I gave the example of that
And
commission.
I've explained to you.
Because, well, I mean,
And there were other consequential actions. But what really happened is that when the consequential action started, then the FA took the matter to court. Now, when the matter is in court, you are stopped from proceeding further. So that is what happened.
But we still haven't seen the report, only the white paper.
The report is available. It's a Ghana publishing.
So the report itself was published?
It's published. It was even on the website. It's there. Because it's voluminous, so people don't want to read.
How about actions, you know, that came out of this?
And I'm saying actions were started. Actions were started. But at the end of the day, if people go to court, in my case, there was nothing about me. They just said some people who were chairman of subcommittees should provide receipts. And they did. They said, if they don't provide the receipt, then I should pay. I said, I won't pay a dime. But eventually, they provided the receipts. So, what is it? It was because, and later we'll talk about that. There were other interests, you know, funding it and all that. And Ghanaians were very angry. And so that was not the time for me to come and explain anything. Nobody will listen to you. You had been.
That's about the other interests.
Oh, it's not important. I'm interested in the 2020 elections. Let me focus on that. And I've moved on. I've forgiven everybody. People are suffering though.
Now, do you still feel, you know, because that moment has become a moment in history, you know, that when you were asked that question, does your appearance still haunt you? Do you still cast your mind back to those moments and think, low point? You know, your appearance before the commission, and you know.
No, like I said, it was a blessing in disguise, because people don't take their time to read, and people were angry. You had already been labeled. People actually believed, you know, and that was amazing. That I actually took money and flew to Miami with a private jet. It's incredible. So people believed all kinds of things. So that is what, you know, but at the end of the day, on record, if you take the report and you look at all the issues that came out, my side of the story was not highlighted because naturally, the media wants to sell bad news.
Well, I mean, we did the story about the fact that the 4.444 million was returned.
But many people do not know. So 4.444 million back to the state. The money we took from corporate Ghana, detailed, I'll send you the detailed, every penny that was, and I was not even a signature to the account. Everything was accounted for, you know. The players refused to train. If we had beaten Portugal, and then in terms of the supporters, that was one of the regrets I have, because the president said, look, these supporters, they are too troublesome. And as I said, but if President Kufuor, an old man, took supporters to, Germany. President Mills took supporters to South Africa. And you, the young man, you don't take supporters. It's not good for us. So we have to do something. He said, well, there's no money. I said, okay, give me the opportunity to raise funds. I think I should have. That was my mistake.
And some of them are still out there, claiming asylum and claiming they're gay and all kinds of things. There were all kinds of interests. I didn't know that this whole thing was a business for some people. Yeah. You know, so do you wish you hadn't burst out, you know, emotionally, had that moment, wept? Do you wish that hadn't happened?
It's happened already. I've moved on. You understand me? If it was something criminal or wrong that I had done, I probably would have been worried. But look at the context. Go and look for it and play it back. The context.
I just might actually. It's quite a moment.
Because so you should ask yourself, what is it that drives the man? Okay? What is it that will make the man, this hard guy, just break down momentarily? What is it? It wasn't about me. It was about the country. Because I saw this was a huge opportunity. Go and train. Because once we beat Portugal, the sky is your limit. They said, we won't train. So he asked me, how did you feel? I can't even describe how it felt. I felt betrayed. I was shattered. I was brokenhearted. I said, but it was like I was seeing something, you know, let's go and make history for Ghana. They were seeing 100,000. The result is what we see, what we saw.
So on the vigilantism issue, you think that the Commission's work is what we ought to be paying attention to? We need to see the report.
Exactly. You've had opportunity of seeing people on live TV beating members of parliament and threatening more mayhem in 2020. People who were trained for 2 weeks, shooting AK-47s, total misbehavior. The police came to the Commission and said they didn't send them, who sent them, who commanded them. These are issues that we should be dealing with. If you don't deal with these issues, you can have any law anywhere, it won't work.
I think that's a very poignant point on which we can wrap up our conversation. I want to thank you so much for making the time to be with us in the studio. It's been so long. I hope it's not that long until our next conversation. But until then, Elvis Ifriye Ankra, Director of Elections for the NDC, former Minister for Youth and Sports. And you know, speaking about vigilantism is a very, very clean way of getting us into our next conversation, which is about security.